But the financial one, I lived in part of an illusion from 17 to 27. I lived in an illusion. I read Think and Grow Rich. I read Richest Man in Babylon. I read Prosperity by Charles Fillmore, Edwin Gaines on prosperity and tithing. I read all these kind of esoteric books. But I didn't get grounded until somebody walked into my office and grounded me with 9 questions. I don't know if did I ever cover those here?
No.
Should I do those?
Please.
Okay, this is a good one.
Okay, I can't wait.
So I just opened up my practice 2 weeks maybe. No, not even that. Just a week and a half, 10 days. And a guy walks in to my office, saw a doctor's office, walked in and said, may I speak to the doctor? And I had a gap between some patients. And so I thought, when they come to make the sale, I'll make the sale. I'm going to turn him into a patient. I'll start talking to this guy. He comes in and he says, I'm Jim McKinley. I said, I'm Dr. DeMartini. He says, I do have a question for you. I'm a financial planner, and I was walking in the area and I saw your office, and I just thought maybe just that I could be of service to you. Do you intend to be financially independent? And of course, my ego said, of course. He said, do you mind if I ask you questions to find out if that's true or not? Ooh, that's a rough one.
Yeah, I like that.
And I said,
this guy's good.
Well, what kind of questions? He said, well, there's 9 questions that I ask, and when somebody can answer them, I know that they're potentially could be financially independent. If they can't answer them, at least at this stage, they're not going to be. And now I'm kind of anxious and excited to know what the questions are. If you picture the 2 personas I had, the self-righteous persona, I want to know what it is. The self-righteous persona, I don't want to be humiliated by not knowing. I had both of them. So what's the first question? He says, right now, what is your total assets that you have in your possession? And I was so naive, I didn't even know what a really asset was at the time. I said, what do you mean by an asset? That's how I would dodge the issue. And he said, well, things like money that you have in a certificate of deposit or a money market account or stock equity or equity in a house, this kind of thing. I went, okay. And I had none, 0. I had books, thousands of books that I could probably get 10 cents on the dollar if I sold them. That was it. I didn't have anything. I had no assets, no savings. I just got out of school. I just opened up a practice, got a loan and another loan, right? And so I said, well, it's negative. I don't have any assets. Great, then let's put it down. I said, he asked me the next question, number 2. What is your total liabilities? And I knew that because I knew what my debt was. I said 70 for this loan and 20 for this loan and the car loan and this, I listed them all out. So I was a net $100,000, and this is 1982. So that'd be like $400 or $500 now, equivalent with inflation probably. So I said, okay, I'm a net negative. He said, great. Number 3, what is your total net worth right now? Assets minus liabilities. Well, there's no assets, there's liabilities, so it's the same number. He says, if you don't know where you are, you don't know where you're going, how are you going to get there? How are you going to get somewhere you don't even know where you're going? I need to know where you are. Right now, we now know where you are. And most people are afraid of actually facing where they are. They don't want to know where they are because it's painful. They don't want to acknowledge their debt. And they live in a fantasy, someday I'll get there. And yet their values will never lead them there. So he asked the 4th question. He said, what do you define as the passive income annually that you're going to call financial independence? And I didn't know any better. I had made $100,000 teaching in a year prior to that. I was single, I had an apartment. I didn't have a whole lot of debts. I had debts, but I didn't have a whole lot of responsibilities. I wasn't married, didn't have kids. So I thought in 1982 that if I could have a 6-digit figure, $100,000 or more per year, I could do pretty good. That would be like $500,000 maybe now. If I had $500,000 a year, I could live on that. So I put $100,000. He said, okay. If you don't know what you want, you don't know where you're going. You don't know where you're starting. You don't know how to. If I get an Uber right now, I don't know where I am. I don't know where I'm going. The Uber says, I can't help you. You can't help yourself until you get to be grounded. Because I was living esoteric. Someday I'll be enough where I don't worry about money. That's a lot of people live in la la land. So I basically said, all right, $100,000. Number 5 question. What is the current investment yield and interest rate you believe you can earn with your knowledge of investing? Which was 0. I said, what would be, I don't know, I haven't done investing. What would be a reasonable return? He said you could probably get 8%. That's a probably reasonable term with no background, but investing in the S&P 500 or whatever, you could get an 8% return. I said, okay, then we'll make it 8%. Great, put 8%. The next question, that's number 6 now. What inflation rate are you going to be facing during the duration of your life on average? I said, I have no idea. He said, well, right now it's high, but it will average around 3 to 3.1 over the long haul, 100 years. I said, well, let's put 3 in there. Great. Okay, now we've got 4, 5, 6, right? Next question. What is the total net worth that you require, earning you 8% minus 3% on inflation, to give you $100,000 a year? And I thought, okay, 8% minus 3% is 5%. 5% into 100% is 20. Multiply 100,000 times 20. I need $2 million today. Give me 8% minus 3% to give me $100,000 a year. He said, great, you figured it out. I said, okay, so I need $2 million. Yep. Now, the next question, number 8, is what's the shortfall between your current net worth and that desired net worth? I said, well, I'm $100,000 in debt, so I need $2,100,000 by tomorrow to give me financial independence. And then I went, okay. He said, great. 9th question, what's your strategy?
Peter Thiel took $500,000 and turned it into $1 billion using the exact same techniques we're using inside the investment club. He met a CEO, his name was Zuckerberg. He pitched him the deal and he said, okay, I'll give you $500,000. Mark went public and sold the shares to people like you. Well, what happened to Peter? Well, he exited and got a 2,300x return. The wealthy invest in early stage companies, folks. The public markets are for suckers. It's a rigged game. By the way, this happens in crypto as well. It's called pre-sale tokens. This is Solana. Does anybody know this chain? They sold pre-sale tokens for 4 cents. And you can see the date on there, April 5th, 2018. Look at Solana today, folks. That thing's up over 1,000x. The media and Wall Street and all these hype people get you to buy the top. Meanwhile, they put their clients in at the bottom and they use you for liquidity to make their clients rich. You can play this same game. You just have to have the financial education and the deal flow. That's it.
How do you intend to have $2,100,000 by tomorrow? And I just went blank. And I started getting a throbbing headache. My stomach went into a knot. I had cramps. My eye got red. I started having a twitch. I had a stress response because I saw no possible way in my level of understanding at that time to allow me to do that. I couldn't see light at the end of the tunnel. And I was just sitting there going, and now I'm confronted by the fantasy that I say that I'm going to be financially independent, but I got confronted by the reality now, grounded me. And I'm going, I don't see a way. So am I having to give up that idea? Or am I having to come up with a new strategy? How am I going to do this? I couldn't see it at the time. At my level of awareness, I couldn't see it. So he just stated, so what's your strategy? And I said, well, let's break it down. I can do $2,100,000 in 24 hours. I can do $1,050,000 in 2 days. I could do $525,000 in 4 days. I could do $262,500 in 8 days. I started breaking it down, and no matter how much I extended it, now I got to factor in inflation, because the more I extend it, the more inflation is going to make this go up. So I was now thinking, how long is this going to take to do it, to get to a point where I think I can actually make that deposit into asset accumulation? And finally, I broke it up into 15 years, 180 months. I said, I think maybe by then, and then I calculated what is the average amount that I need to be able to put into savings to be able to do that, because now with the inflation rate, I'm now going to need $4 million. So I need $4 million in 180 months. That's $22,000 a month average going in, accumulating with compound interest to give me that result in 15 years. And no matter what I did, I thought, I'm saving $200 a month right now. I don't see any light at the tunnel. And I said, I need to go and relieve my bladder. I need to go back to her. And I just sat on the can and I put my head like Dobie Gillis in the 1960s, right? I'm sitting like this. I'm having a throbbing headache. I'm having cramps. My jaw is tight. And I'm thinking, I have no idea how I'm going to get there. This doesn't make any sense. If I've been living in a delusion and not wanting to face it, and I guarantee a lot of people do that. They just live in the fantasy that someday, somehow, some way, are we going to miraculously get there. And I sat there for probably 20 minutes in that room, trying to meditate to calm my amygdala down, because it was off the chart, and my headache, which was a conflict between what I'm actually living and what my fantasy was. And I got finally into kind of a meditative state and just sat there for a minute. And something popped in my head. And what came was the force accelerated savings technique and the force accelerated investment technique. Fast and fate popped in my head, which I have been using ever since. And I came out, my headache was a bit less, and I said, I think I've got away. He says, what's your strategy? He says, right now I'm saving $200 a month. I have no problem doing that. But I could live at the border of comfort, uncomfort, make it 300 in 3 months. Every quarter, I could raise it. And then make it 500, then make it 750. And incrementally build up as I'm building my knowledge of my business. I can incrementally increase that. When I hit $1,000 a month 1 year later, because I was paying off debt, because I had a higher value on paying other people altruistically than I did in valuing myself at that time. So when I got 1,000, I ran a projection. I said, if I keep doing $1,000 in 34 years, I'll be a millionaire. That's not financial independent, but that's just $1 million. So I knew I could be a millionaire at least in my life. But I made a commitment, and it was one of the most significant things I did. I made a commitment that I was going to increase it 10% every quarter. So I made it 1,100. I ran another projection, 31 years. 1,210, ran another projection, 28 years. 1,344, ran another projection, right, 25.4 years. And now what I'm doing is I'm increasing the amount I'm saving and accelerating it and shorting the time frame. And then I realized when I got to $2,000 saving per month, I'm down in a point where I could be now a multimillionaire. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to do this saving. And once I built up a cash reserve of 3 to 6 months, I think it was 4 months, I just put it all into investments, into stocks. I started buying the S&P 500 and various mutual funds at the time. And they didn't have ETFs yet. And so then when my student loan came through, instead of spending it raising my lifestyle, which most people do, I took that and I immediately put $400 more into here. But now I'm increasing 10% on whatever I'm doing, 10% every quarter. So that went to 4,000, 8,000, 16,000. Every 2 years it was doubling. And then when another loan was finished, I put it in there. And so it's actually going faster than that. About every year and a half, it was now doubling. It went to 16, it went to 32, it went to 64, it went to 128. I got it to $256,000 a month. So I needed 22,000. So I was below it when I started, but I was way above it. And I reached financial independence in way less than what I imagined because I followed a strategy. Strategies build wealth. Emotions destroy it. And so I followed a strategy, a methodical, and when you manage money wisely, you receive more money to manage. And when you go to uncomfort with your investments, you keep building and drawing more opportunities to your life because that's eustress, not distress. So I just started learning all the principles and devoured about 1,400 books on finances. 90% of them are worth throwing in the toilet. But there's some basic classical ones that I learned to follow that were very valuable. Charles Ellis's Winning the Loser's Game, The Intelligent Investor. I started studying Buffett back in late 80s, and I became financially independent from 37, just under 37, 36 to 37, and now it's 50 plus times.
Hey,
I know investing in crypto is scary. It takes a real leap of faith because there are so many scams, rug pulls, and bad actors out there. It's a dangerous business, which is why 95% of people lose all their money. Well, that's why I created the London Real Investment Club, so you can access the hottest deals on the planet and use the crypto bull market to create the generational wealth that you deserve. Join my team of over 100 people from around the world that are making millions of dollars behind the scenes investing in blockchain, AI, Web3 games, DeFi, Bitcoin, and more. Don't miss out. Click the link below to book a call with one of my team now. But hurry, this bull market will end soon.
I know investing in crypto can be scary. That's why you gotta join the investment club. Pull the trigger. Let's do this.